Welcome to the TST Roundtable for September the 21st. Tonight, anything goes type of topic.
Almost anything. We were actually just talking about the right stuff on gasket material. I love
that stuff. That's right? Great stuff.
I was using
great sealant.
Phenomenal. The only thing I would buy, worth the extra money.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll tell you why. It really does set up quite easily.
And fast.
And it's not like the cheap stuff that goos out. It's fast.
And it gets very hard. It's very tough stuff.
The container works. The little spray thing, the nozzle works, and it works every time.
Right.
I mean, it stops and
it stops when you want it to stop, and it starts when you want it.
They sell it in a caulking gun type too.
I used to keep both of them. Sometimes I got a good deal on a caulk gun. Napa used to have a good deal on those if you bought a case.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and like you said, the Cheese Whiz can, as it's called.
And they make the gray as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's nice about that? If you have any of these intake leaks, when you get a lean mixture condition and you smoke these, especially Ford engines, you don't see any smoke coming out when the vehicle's hot. You let it cool down, you see the smoke coming out. You look at freeze frame, you'll notice the engine temperature was cold when it set the code.
Right.
Now, even though you go, oh, it's not supposed to do that, it went into closed loop because of the O2 sensor.
Right.
It'll pick up
and
the
it saw
code.
the leak.
You take the manifold off, forget about buying new gaskets, because Ford, they're always behind on them. Excuse me, I leave the old ones in place, put the right stuff around,
Back
put it
together,
down,
golden.
there you go.
It
works good.
Years ago, BMW had a problem with their, on the V8s, the valley pan plate for the cooling system, right, in the valley of the V8. You have to take the intake manifold off. It's no 5-minute job. And they had a problem with those, and they had a big problem with the factory installed stuff that was supposed to seal it. I used to had to get a new one because it would get screwed up, the surface would get screwed up. But I would put the new one on and use right stuff on their sealant. Never had one of those leak. Even when they later said that there had been a production mistake and the new ones were leaking. But my new ones never leaked.
So if you want a confident sealer, use the right stuff.
Yeah, use the right stuff. Good stuff.
Good. Yeah, that is good. It really is a good product.
Yeah.
Now, how about what you guys were talking about before we went on live? Talking wheels, talking lug nuts.
I only use the torque wrench. I had a low setting on my impact gun. It was like 35 foot-pounds, or very low number. Jerry has always been big on this. You start at the bottom lug or the bottom stud, whatever, and you give it a little, and you work star pattern around, but you get it kind of snug, and then I would put it down and torque it. I would never put, as a mnemonic device, we were talking about things to remember, not getting distracted and forgetting things. I would never take the socket off the lift arm. I couldn't take the lift arm away from the car without seeing the socket and saying, oh, I forgot to torque the wheels. Right? The socket stayed on the lift arm.
You know, procedures are very important.
You can't forget that way, right? Don't put it on a bench or someplace.
I always say, and this is not to be funny or anything,
right?
You know, when you go to the bathroom, you know exactly what you have to do, right? Put your pants down, you do what you got to do.
You don't forget anything.
If you don't do the same routine, you're going to forget one day and have dirty underwear.
It's going to be very bad.
Now, when I used to train a lot of people running multiple shops, I used to tell them that. And not to be funny.
Yeah.
Go, but Mommy taught you a routine, right?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to working on the car, I want you to unlock the doors when you're coming in, roll the driver window down, never leave it up. If that window's broken, another window goes down, please.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hood gets popped.
Right.
You notice if the oil gauge is working, the temperature gauge, the lights on the day.
Look at everything.
This is stuff to do. And if you do a routine, you don't have a problem.
Check the lights when the car comes in.
I'll tell you about one guy. Out of all the years that I was in business, one engine got blown. This guy happened to be an ASE Master Tech, great guy, Tony, probably not alive now because he was 65 back in 1980. But Tony was a good guy and may rest in peace. Okay. He did everything perfect. Oil sticker, gear oil, you know, the days, greased the car, lubed the door, you name it, he did it. You know what he forgot?
Tighten the drain plug.
Oil in the car.
Putting the oil in.
And I always told people when you put oil in, you start it up, you watch the gauge of the light. He didn't do that. I had to wind up buying that car from the customer. It was a good customer.
I always have my guys take the cap off. The cap doesn't go back on until
it's done.
Actually, my
Dipstick
text been
out.
told,
You need that procedure, and after that, I got very anal with procedure, because the guy would say, you were in a sparkle in your dad's eye. Well, he was right, and this guy was, when I tell you, he was a great mechanic. You put him on anything, from rebuilding a tranny, differential, he was good. His mother-in-law moved in with him, he got distracted.
right,
Distractions kill you. The texting
yeah.
we were talking about,
Right.
Right.
the calling, you know, you gotta make it almost a rule, and this is what I told Craig when he went to business. I said, you can't have that damn guy getting phone calls, texting every 2 minutes. I
Yeah.
do one finger. You're not concentrating.
yeah,
We got a 3,000-pound gun out there, don't we?
Yeah, the cars.
Meaning the vehicle.
Or 4 or
Sure.
5
Or 4 or
six.
5, right.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
You can kill someone.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
that's
And as far
distraction.
as that oil thing, I've told all the guys in the shop, they don't all, always listen, but run the car, check the dipstick.
And let them sit.
Run, yeah.
Let them
Don't
sit.
Don't throw the 5, I had one guy screwed up a diesel because he was doing 2 oil changes. He put 2 loads in one car and nothing in the other car.
Oh, wow.
The other car never left, but the one with too much left, and you know, with a diesel, it's very bad.
Very bad.
Um,
And how about, you know, not only
stupid.
too much oil in there on a lot of cars, even a Honda, where, you know, people think, oh, it's gonna take 4 quarts. No, it don't.
Right.
It may take
It
less.
takes 3.8.
Yeah,
Right.
and what happens when you put too much in there? Especially with Vano systems or
Yeah, all of that.
variable valve timing,
Right.
you know, all these, or DOD
Well, with a
displacement
diesel, what
on
happens
demand.
is it ends up getting into the intake, and then you can't, it won't shut off.
Right. That's runoff.
Oh, yeah, it's bad news. And it destroys all the modern emission controls as well.
Yeah, not good, very, very
EPFs
expensive.
are not happy.
You know, the simple things is really what people forget. And it always goes back to basic
Back to
things.
basics.
You know, it's just like electricity.
Right.
You were talking about electrical problems
Electrical
earlier before we
problems.
came on?
And everything's assured, isn't it?
Everything to everybody is a short.
Right.
And same thing, and I have shops that are doing that. It's not just retail customers.
Right.
It's shops.
But in the real world, short circuits are what, 5%, 8%, 10% of problems? They're really
Oh,
not
yeah.
a big percentage,
It's not a
right?
big percentage, especially now, because if wires rub through now, they don't rub through into metal, they rub through into plastic.
Right.
Now, we got, hey Luke, I see you came on. I want to say hello to you. We sent you an email today, or I sent you an email. Welcome, and if you have any questions, you could either type them in. Do you see us on your video? You have to click on the little camera. I know it's your first time on. And I'll look for your response there and then continue on. So what else are we going to be speaking about?
Well, one of the things that I did, was gonna, I go on home. I can talk forever.
It's just a pet peeve about dirty shops. I became a mobile tech, so I do work for other shops, not so much diagnostic, but repair work. And I don't understand how you walk into a shop and there's just garbage everywhere. I just don't get it. Like, how do you work with rotors on the floor, and pads on the floor, and just nothing?
That's not me, but I know a guy. I know a guy that works.
He knows a guy who works like
I
that.
mean, when I came in before, I complimented the guys inside. The shop is clean. It's neat. It's swept. There's a lot of tools in it, and that's understandable. But I walk into shops and these guys ask me to help them, and you can't physically walk around a shop, and yet that's the way they work. And I don't get it. It's slow. It's so unproductive. It's unbelievable, and it's dangerous.
It's the same thing with your toolbox. A dirty toolbox.
Yeah.
Mom, anal. I like all my tools where I know exactly what they are. If one's missing,
You know,
I know it's missing.
10 minutes.
if you had to go looking for a wrench.
That's it.
Exactly. If you
Another
clean
10
stuff
minutes.
before you put it away, you know the thing like
Oh,
your
yeah.
mom told you, everything has its place. When you're done playing with the toys, you put
It's
it away.
right.
Yeah.
It makes your life
The
easier.
only time I'd leave stuff out when I had my cart and I'm doing, let's say, a timing belt or a big
Right.
job, then I'd leave it out until I'm done totally with the job.
But at least your tools are on the cart.
Not like Pierre.
You know, things are on the cart.
Not like me.
I've gone into, in the last, today's Wednesday, 3 days, I've gone into 3 different shops, and the carts are piled this high with I don't know what, and the tools are on the floor. They're doing brake jobs, and they've got the brake parts on the floor. And I'm thinking, there's a cart right there. Every time he takes a step, they're kicking stuff. Now they're wasting time tracing everything. I don't get it. It's just a pet peeve of mine, it drives me.
It's bad habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad habits.
It's
And
bad
it's not-
habits. And it's hard to get rid of a bad habit. You gotta start with good ones so you don't make bad habits.
That and inventory, like I understand that you can't stock everything, but you should have fuses, light bulbs, hose clamps, and muffler clamps. There's no reason not to have any of those.
Tell that to my parts department.
But it's amazing how many shops I go into and like you're diagnosing, I'm giving a hand checking something out. We go to fix, I'm like, I need a flasher, a 552 flasher, nothing fancy. I got a call for that. What do you mean you got a call for it? The parts store sells them for 10 for, like, they're $1 a piece. Buy them by the 10 pack. Nope, got a call for it. I don't have hose clamps, I don't have fuses. I don't have fuses.
You know, fuses.
That's it.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
me
production
too.
again. Production. If you don't have these things that are on hand, you lose
You
a lot of
can't do
time.
it.
And they call the auto parts store for one pin of fuses or one bulb. Yeah.
Wiper.
It's pretty scary.
It's another.
Well, that's
Oh,
something.
hey, we got a question here.
Oh, good.
Sure.
Question about AutoEnginuity scan tool on early OBD2 GM vehicles. I've had a hard time getting into any modules but the powertrain. Have any of you had the
Yeah.
same problem on the AutoEnginuity or any of the
Yes,
scan tool?
yes. Yeah, but my update, I don't know if he's up to date, but my update took care of a lot of it.
Okay. I have not, I mean, I've used AutoEnginuity for years, Luke. I really did not have the problem on GMs. There were some other ones there were issues on, but he's
Oh, yeah.
asking GM.
Yeah.
Their updates, you should always get the latest update. I believe subscriptions for a year, is that?
I believe
I
so.
think it's a yearly subscription. You can check with Bevo. Overall, it's a good tool. Every aftermarket scan tool, I think, usually has some sort of an issue, but overall, it's a good tool.
They also all have updates. You really have to.
He's on the current release.
Hmm.
Maybe he's got a problem with the tool then.
You better have to call in.
Yeah, you may want to call in for tech support or reload the software. A lot of times, just like Luke, believe it or not, we weren't on time tonight because we had problems with WebEx software.
Something
So
stupid.
unfortunately, software and computers, you think they're great. I mean, we have a state-of-the-art Windows 7 Pro computer here, you know, high-end stuff. And
Brand new
things happen.
HDTV camera.
So,
And 80-year-old cables.
you know, I don't really know of any particular problem myself. Thank you for the question. And please, if you have any more, or anyone else out there, write them in.
Okay.
What else we want to talk about? We want to talk about how cars sometimes go dead, and this product right here, called the Watchdog Battery Voltage Monitor. You just stick this on the battery when the battery starts getting low, and let's talk about that. You know, you stick your car on, even my new car. You put the car in the on position with the key on, scanning the car, and then you go for lunch.
They use a lot of electricity.
In 45 minutes or so, when I'm doing sometimes a webcast, if I don't put a battery tamer on the car,
Right.
by the time I'm done with an hour webcast, the battery is dead. When you're dead, it won't start the car.
I've
It's
been
all
told-
lights, but it won't start.
I've been telling everybody in the shop that no matter what they do, if the ignition's gonna be on, certainly any coding or programming operation, they must put a power supply on the car. And we had a problem with an older power supply that was sometimes dropping out. And in that case, I told them they had to put a voltmeter on it too.
Well, you know what it is too, you
To
have,
make sure it was actually putting out what it was supposed to.
you have a lot of
Oh.
cars today that have the lights on when you turn the key on.
Hold your thought there 1 second. He
Go ahead.
called tech support, Luke did. This is AutoEnginuity, and they said the ABS and airbag modules on these vehicles are not currently supported because they use a different protocol. What year was that, Luke? What year vehicle was that? Now, you know, some of these, when they use a different protocol, sounds to me that the tool is not shifting from either a CAN network over to some sort of
It's not,
different
not
network.
recognizing.
Class 2 or whatever, it's not really
It's
getting.
not automatically seeing what type of network it's
So
talking
I
about.
think he's gonna be typing something in there. And by the way, sorry, we're not looking at the camera, at least on my end here, I gotta look at the computer.
Right.
We don't have Craig with us tonight. It was a '99 Saturn.
Saturn sometimes is a little
Little hairy.
hairy. Absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a while on a Saturn.
I
don't
hear
do many of
people all the time talk about that.
them. Okay. On any scan tool,
Yes, any scan tool,
except the Tech 2 probably.
probably.
Okay, that may be something that aftermarket companies do have issues with. I mean, there's always little nuances with certain cars. Have you been happy, Luke, with it? And, on 2000 Chevy Express vans, do you, Luke, have you tried seeing if you could have a buddy or something with a snap-on or an OTC or some other tool that can do it? Because I don't recall, I mean, I don't work on too
Especially on
many
Express.
whole things.
Express should be all right.
I use Snap-on, I'll give you communicators. To draw them onto.
So it may be something that they're having an issue on with AutoEnginuity, but again, overall a good tool. So,
Oh, yeah. I find it.
Could have been issues with those vehicles too. I mean, if it was a lot of vehicles, obviously, maybe not, but
Yeah,
flies
the flies
driving
gonna get
crazy.
you can't see it on camera probably, but there's a fly buzzing
Yeah.
around. It's driving us nuts.
He hasn't tried it
Speaking
on
of
camera yet.
He wants
Try
to
that
get in.
and let us know how you make out. Okay, Neil, so what's been going on in your technical background shop there?
Today I had a Ford Freestyle that my guy checked out the battery, and the customer came in that the car didn't start on him 2 times. So my guy checked out the battery with the Medtronics from Interstate that they loan you as long as you still have enough batteries.
No, they'll loan you, they rent it to you.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, same thing.
You have the use of it.
Well, the guy used it, he printed out the thing and says the battery was good. So I get there and I asked the customer and they told me they couldn't start it 2 times. One day the door was left open, another day it wasn't. So I check it again. When I check it, it showed the battery wasn't too good. But what I noticed, why I went to go back and check it, is it said that the alternator was okay, meanwhile it was 12.49. So why would the thing say it's okay when it's 12.49?
Okay, here's why. One of the major problems with using a tool such as Medtronics, which is conductive resistance test, is if the battery cables themselves are not, the lug ends are not clean, attached to the battery, the post, that's not clean, all your tests are out the door.
Because you're not actually
And
testing
that's
the battery accurately.
That's the number one, and you know, when Interstate or someone comes in, that's the first thing they do. They'll take the battery, they'll clean the terminal end,
Yep.
check it, and then see if it's good or
And
not.
make sure you put the memory saver on before you disconnect the battery.
You bet. Good
Well,
idea.
anyway.
Not a 9-volt battery one either.
No.
No.
Well, I checked it a 3rd time, because when I was checking it, it would not give me it showed it up on the thing where it's read 12 point, we put a new battery in, the battery was shot. And so I got okay to put a battery in, clean the terminals were not filthy, but they were dirty.
Right.
So I put that on, and it still read 12.49, but I couldn't get it to print out. My guy was able to get it print out, and it showed that it was still 12 point, I mean, it needed an alternator, but it just
This
pissed
was
me off.
12.49 while it was running?
Yeah, and then I tested it with my old Snap-on, the carbon pile thing, and still didn't,
No
I also
output.
tested with the, what's that?
There was no output from the
No.
alternator at all.
But the fact that
Did
the tool said that it was.
It was good the first time.
It said it showed good,
Right.
no charge system problems, which that made no sense.
No, it didn't make sense.
Well,
Unless it was charging that moment. I mean, alternators with brushes
usually,
come and go.
usually, look, there's nothing 100%, but I've seen more people make a mistake using Medtronics because they did not clean the terminal. The reason being, those are little lug ends, you know, they're a little bigger than this, but they're not the big clamps.
Right.
Right.
The big clamps tend to
It's gonna be
do
a
the
voltage
binder.
drop there.
Yeah, it's probably a
And
voltage.
those things are a pain in the ass, even to the Medtronics battery charger to put on side terminals. You can't get them to test, when you want to test, when you use the Medtronics to test it first before you
Right.
charge the battery,
Right.
it says no clamp connection, no clamp
No,
connection.
that's correct. That's because those
Those
lugs
little
that they,
bolts are a
lugs
pain
that
in
they
the neck.
use, yeah, the lugs that they use, they corrode.
Oh, BMW service information. Yeah, keep going.
All right, the lugs corrode and they don't make a good contact.
Yeah.
And not only that, sometimes even when the lugs, what really makes the contact on those side terminals is the eye of that battery cable, not the lug anyway.
Right.
And you have no access to that eye.
To the eye, right.
Yeah, that is a tough part. Here's a question for you, Pierre, and you guys keep thinking of your thoughts now. Luke also has a question with BMW, service information from BMW at bmwtechinfo.com.
Okay.
It says on the website, BMW troubleshooting charts, guides, aids for diagnosis, integrated BMW tools, standalone guides for troubleshooting not available via the website. Does this mean trouble trees, wire diagrams, etc. are not on the website?
You know, I haven't been on that website in quite a while because I don't have my shop anymore. But the last time I was on that website, everything was up. There were wiring diagrams, there were training PDFs, there were, you know, repair manuals.
How much is that website?
$30, I think it was, at 24 hours.
24 hours, and I think they give you a little more. Because I went on, it wasn't that long ago myself.
And I never used to buy it more than a day because I had so much, you know, the AutoLogic and all kinds of other equipment. But some guys with shops would buy the monthly or the yearly subscription because they were using it constantly. It was cheaper that way or easier that way.
Well, you don't need
as far as
a
it all being on the site, I don't know, unless they've changed the site. It all used to be there.
He's asking how he already comments. I haven't had a need for a subscription yet. Well, you don't need to subscribe other than you can do the daily. You don't
You
need,
sign up, you have a PayPal account, at least that's how I did it. I'm sure that you could give them a credit card or something
Yeah,
too.
they have it.
But I had a PayPal account. I had, you know, your PayPal password, you'd log on, it would kick you over to the PayPal screen. You'd say, okay, for 30 bucks for, you know, BMW North America or however they worded it. And I was in.
Okay, he's saying now he was just poking around to see what's available. Luke, if you go to NASTF, National Automotive Task Force.org, all the websites are there. Maybe you should poke around on the Hyundai and Kia, they're free, just to get an idea what's there. I could kind of tell you.
Now, I just had a thought though. You must, for the
That's
BMW, it is dangerous, and it happens rarely. The BMW website does not work properly, and a lot of it won't work at all unless you're using Internet Explorer. It will not work with Firefox or Google Chrome or any of that stuff.
Yeah, they tell
correctly.
you that.
They tell you that, but just be aware of it. You may try to go in and a lot of it's unavailable, even if you bought a subscription. You gotta have IE on it, or it's
Yeah,
not
and
gonna
look at
work.
what version of IE they're requesting now.
Right, yeah, that's the other thing.
But the other thing, if you go exploring what's on some of these websites, you know, there's information for the manuals on the car, there's download information as far as reprogramming. All right.
No, thank God.
Finally got
That's
rid of
no
that.
more.
No more
No more
distractions there.
distractions.
I was starting to get cross-eyed. At any rate, there is a bunch of information, Luke. He was using the latest, i.e., I've logged on to Hyundai and Kia. Did you find what you needed? You sometimes got to be careful with the latest Internet Explorer. It may be too new to work with them. And what I mean by that, you know, the version 10 or 11, they may only tell you version 9. Same with PDFs.
Yeah.
A lot of them want you to download what they have because the government could not regulate what Internet Explorer they can use, what PDF. They try to stay on top of it, but most of the time it's not the very latest version and it ain't the oldest version.
Right, something in between.
Something in between.
Yeah, on BMW, by the way, if you do get successfully on there and get to it, the training PDFs are downloadable, but they are segmented into chapters or pages. And what you have to do is download each sequential page into a folder, and then get rid of the, and I forget the character. I think it was a $sign with a S or something like that, and a space. You had to add a space, and then it would all of a sudden it would all index again.
Okay, now I have a new question. I'm looking at a good tool here that I was impressed with. These guys are out of Canada, and you brought in a Motor magazine. This thing won Motor Top 20 tool, General Technologies Corporation. And what I'm going to ask you is, you know, what do you do when you have an ignition problem? This is a quick check of where I can see ignition systems, what types. All I do is put this near a coil on plug or whatever. Picks up stuff, tells me burn time. It gives me RPM. And I gotta say, it really works. Okay. Now, we know a lot of guys don't want to pull a scope out. You know, a lot of times you do need to scope stuff, but with the OBD2 systems that are out there, someone like General Motors, basically what did they do? they told you, you don't need an ignition scope anymore, you don't need a lab scope, you're going by our DTC. Well, let's say you got a P0302 DTC. What do you do with that? Let's start with Neil. What do you do with a 302 if it comes in your shop?
And check out the spark plug,
Okay.
and check the coil.
What are you checking it with? And these are not trick questions, these are just, what do you do normally in your shop?
Well, I use the, well, I really can't, I don't use one of those things. I just go by, first of all, I go to, we spoke about this last time, I go to Identifix and start from there.
Well, again, we should always state, always a good idea to a visual check, a hearing check, in other words, noise, check the oil, all the basic stuff, Identifix, IATN, these are all good things to go with, but you've done that. If it tells you change part A with, you know, and put a new one in and it don't work,
Then where do you
we're saying
go?
you gotta test,
You have to diagnose.
not guess.
You have to
I
diagnose.
would personally grab a scan tool, go to Misfire counter, confirm it's Misfire in that one cylinder, confirm by pulling another plug if you get to it easily enough to pick up the right cylinder.
And it's not misfiring on
Okay, so let's slow
an
up.
adjacent cylinder.
Go to a scan tool and look at misfire count.
Yes.
Does every manufacturer
No, they
give
do
you?
not.
No.
Okay, so what do you use in place of misfire count?
I would use a scope at that point.
Okay, anyone else?
I do a lot of mode 6.
Good.
Mode 6
Mode
is 40.
6, if it's not there, it should be in mode 6.
Yes.
And at least that zones us in. But a misfire, is it always spark plug or wire related?
That's why I still like an exhaust analyzer.
Very good.
But you know
Exhaust
something? I
analyzer is
know
important.
very few techs who have or use an exhaust analyzer. In fact, I have one in my trunk right now because I had to bring it to work because they didn't
I'm gonna
have
show you
access
guys
to
a
it.
great exhaust analyzer. Keep going on, keep going on.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us fall in the same thing. Like if you've got a Ford and you got a mess and you go to mode 6 and it says cylinder 2,
Oh.
you're going with a coil and a plug.
But the other thing is,
Right.
but the other thing is, when does that misfire occur?
Yes.
Right.
Because if
Exactly.
you got it hanging up on a cold start because of crud on the valve stems,
Yeah.
or
Right.
worse
It could
yet,
be-
somebody
it could
put
be-
the wrong oil in and you have a hanging lifter or something like that.
Right.
You really want to know that, or you're going to be changing coils and plugs for nothing. There's
I
a neat
just,
little
I just had
exhaust
a really nice exhaust tool here.
That thing's going
This gas analyzer, a 5-gas analyzer, I use this on a webcast and of course on some other cars. This
How
is,
small that
this
is.
is the PC hookup, but what's really nice about this EMS, this one doesn't have the display up front.
Okay.
It's all on the computer.
It's on the computer because it's all graphable. Now, you could get it with the display, but here's what I really like. You notice these two valves here?
Yeah.
I could do pre and post cat.
Wow.
So before
Two
and
hoses.
after, 2 hoses. You see the back pressure gauge?
Wow.
Built in. This company's out of Illinois. They do a great job, all made in the USA. A very impressive product that one day maybe we'll kind of use out in the shop.
So obviously you're gonna pull the 2 sensors out or make your 2.
No. Post cat could be at the end of the tailpipe.
Yeah, no,
Right,
yeah, but the pre-
cat, what I've done is, I mean, I've probably told you guys about this, but for the webcast, I made up an adapter so that I could take an oxy sensor out, put the adapter in, put the oxy sensor back
Oh, very
in,
smart.
and there's a little pipe sticking out the side of it so I can get an exhaust sample and not screw up the mixture.
Right. Or as I
Set a
said,
code.
I made up a thing that I call a YA,
Where you can get.
a YA 300.
Reach it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right way.
The YA 300 is a piece of like the catalytic converter hose, remember the old
Right.
hose and
Yeah.
stuff? Or you can use 5/8 heater hose. Now the reason for that is your probe has to go inside of it and not clog the tip ends,
Right.
but it has to be a tight seal.
Right.
You can use this on DPFEs, DPFs on a Ford, okay, the DPFE on a Ford, that's back pressure coming up and exhaust gases, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can use this on transducers on Mitsubishi, Toyotas, Chryslers, a whole bunch of cars that have it without ripping out an oxygen sensor. That's a good idea,
That is a good.
but
But on
hey,
some cars, you can't reach the oxy sensor.
Right.
They're very.
and by the way, another good thing that BG, I gotta say, BG makes a great kit for EGR cleaning. You know what I also do with
Very
them?
nice.
I use it for exhaust gas testing. Works great.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay.
And a back
So-
pressure tester.
And a back pressure tester.
Using
So,
tools for two purposes.
couple of purposes here.
Right.
Are we allowed to ask how much something like this costs? Or we're supposed to?
This with the software,
Sure.
the hoses, the whole thing, I think it's about $5,500.
That's not bad.
You should be able to find the information out on P10, Professional Tool and Equipment. I did a webcast on it.
It's a great idea.
And it was the information about how much
Right.
it costs.
That's not bad.
And look at this, feel this thing. I mean, it is relatively light. Okay. Nice setup. Luke has another question here. Smoke machines. What machines have you used and liked? What machines would you avoid? Okay, well, let's go with what I would avoid. Any machine that is gonna use air and not an inert gas such as CO2 or nitrogen,
Nitrogen.
I would not use as a smoke machine. Smoke Wizard, Snap-on, OTC, they're all of those are good machines. Smoke Wizard I like because it's so small and handy now. The Vacutech one, you know, a lot of them are big. When it used to be a little bigger than this year's
Right,
vac, it
right.
wasn't bad. And I would not use anything that uses baby oil. There are a couple of machines out on the market. One that's a little metal canister, you pour some baby oil in there, use shop air. Baby oil, there are bulletins and information from SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, and bulletins from Toyota and GM using baby oil to smoke the system could ruin the solenoids and clog up the charcoal canister. So those are the ones I'd stay away from. Smoke Wizard, great. Vacutech, great. Again, I like that ATS, the guys who made this little box here, Automotive Test Solutions. They got some good stuff. I would say they're all
Basically,
good.
anybody that uses not baby oil and uses an inert gas.
Inert gas.
Now, the other advantage of using it that I like about CO2 as opposed to nitrogen is if you have an exhaust analyzer.
There we go, I got
You
one.
have a CO2 detector.
I got a lot of them at Joy.
And if you use nitrogen, well, nitrogen's 80% of the atmosphere, and you don't have a nitrogen detector. So,
No, not yet, and I get one.
so the bottom line is, you could be sniffing for CO2 with an exhaust analyzer. It's an additional way to find that nasty leak that's buried up over someplace.
Right.
Can't see the smoke through whatever it dissipates, and you can't figure out where the stupid leak is.
And all of those use a dye. By the way, they have the dye patented in the Smoke Wizard, the Vacutech, the Snap-on, the OTC. Though it has a dye, so a black light could be used. And also, what I'd like is, remember you got to speak up so
Yes,
people
sir.
can hear you. What I really like is an ultrasonic leak detector as a backup. When I don't find it with the smoke, I don't see it with the black light, I don't get it with the gas analyzer, the ultrasound.
Now, there's a tool I never sprung for, but
It's not that expensive. There's some
Yeah.
decent ones out there, Ultraphonics, that does NASCAR and stuff. They're from down south, I think North Carolina or Tennessee. Make about the best ones. And some of them reasonable, $500.
That's not bad.
Not a bad tool. But again, you're gonna need a smoke machine because it regulates the amount of pressure you're putting through the system.
right.
A lot of people go, well, I'll just put air in the system. Number one, that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Hydrocarbons.
Well, you're talking
fly
about
around.
evap, but there are other types of leaks where air would be okay. I mean, a crankcase leak, it wouldn't
Right.
really matter. But still, you don't want something that's gonna,
Combustion over.
yeah, well, create issues. I mean, you shouldn't have an ignition source when you're doing a crankcase, but, I
And we
mean,
never want high pressure.
and you don't want high pressure.
No.
The dyes are a great idea because, again, they leave a trace that you can find later,
Yeah.
Right.
So-
An
the
AC
machines-
evaporator,
The
whatever.
smoke machines are also calibrated as per leak,
Very
as
right,
how much of a leak.
Right.
Very good, and that's important, whether it's a 40, a 20, or a 10, you're gonna
Right.
find out what the leak is. So let's get back to, you said you used mode 6?
Well, I use,
And remember, you gotta
misfire counters, and I would just confirm what cylinder it's on, pretty much, and go
Okay.
on for my diagnosis.
When you say confirm, what are you gonna use to confirm? Let's say,
Just make sure I confirm what cylinder it's actually, if it's actually counting number 2. but not a different cylinder, because that'll get you up.
So you're saying some scan tools actually lie and tell you the wrong cylinder
I
and
would
misfire?
never
No.
say that. But yes, off.
Could happen though,
It
yeah.
happens on quite a few, I'm talking even
Yeah.
factory scan tools will do that to you.
Yeah.
It's all how they calculated
And
this.
that's why I ended up buying the ATS, the Misfire tool,
Software.
you know,
Oh, I
software.
didn't even think about that.
Pressure transducers. And that's very nice, but it does take more time to set up. The problem with that kind of stuff is, it takes more time to set up. You have to be able to charge for it.
No,
Scan tools, the first thing I look at to get an idea, and then it kind of depends on what I find, how much deeper I get into it. Obviously, if you find a oil-fouled, cruddy spark plug with, you know, the brown stain from leaking combustion gases by the insulator and a burnt-up coil that's arcing, you're done. Pretty much, as long as it's not misfiring when you're done.
But let's talk about these misfire detection software. There's two out there. One from Automotive Test Solutions, which is a great one, I have that. And another very good one that I really think is good from
First
John
look.
Thompson.
Thompson.
from John Thompson,
Right.
Ace Misfire Detective. And Ace Misfire Detective, very good, very easy software, and he has some new stuff that's going to be hitting the market pretty soon.
I haven't used that. One of my coworkers has it and loves it.
Yeah. You know, when something is simple, you take it out. I'm not going to take, to be honest with you, I'm not going to take either one of those out. You know, that's for the real hairy crap.
That's
or
right.
if you
Yep.
want to sell, and here's where John Thompson hit this thing nail on the head. John Thompson is the misfire detective. He has built something where you can use it in a quick loop, real quick, a device like this, that big, no more big pico scope and all that like the stuff I have that he's
Right.
selling. This new stuff that will be out, it's not available yet. Okay, I've seen it, looks great. It's a little box, you throw it in the pipe, instant, made for the quick lube industry. You know why? Now you can verify if it really does need
If it really has a-
cleaning or not.
Right.
If it has a
Before and
misfire.
after. And just give me the box a second. And you're just going like this. You're putting this in the tailpipe with a transducer, you're hitting a button, you record it, you can show the customer, good, bad, whatever, print it out. Then, if they get a cleaning, you'll see the difference. The reason why he got into that end of it is because how many people think, and I just had to kind of play with an article for an emission program, we won't mention where, but in this particular place, the emission program, you know, they want to keep guys away from cleaning. You know, and we're talking about
Why?
intake cleaning, because a lot of people will sell that just to
It's
make
got-
money
it
and
got
rip the bars.
abused.
No,
And it got abused,
right.
which is bad for the industry, because you know what? I fixed many of P0420s
Yeah.
and hesitation problems and
Yeah,
everything
deposits
else.
on valves.
With, you know, using the Run Right
And intakes.
Techron stuff, works frickin' great. And over the years too, even BG, I was a big BG user, it worked good. So, you know, I'm not gonna pull the big guns out,
Right.
and when I say, you know, what's your next step? Well, he has the misfire stuff, but how about just using your lab scope to check
Sure.
the primary ignition pattern?
Mhm.
Or this thing here, it's freaking phenomenal. And I think this is like a couple.
Now, the
years
only
ago.
thing is,
I mean,
before you even get to that point, as I was saying before, you really gotta know when that thing's set, because if it only sets for the first 8 seconds on a cold start, by the time you have it in the shop and hook everything up, you're not gonna find nothing.
Right, and that's, well, see, there's where
But really look at
frame,
freeze frame, right, yeah.
Or
Scan tool
recording
first.
data, graphing data that you could save,
Scan tool.
something like the Bernie scan tool.
Right.
You know, or any, your
Yeah.
AutoEnginuity as well.
Right.
If it graphs the stuff. When you see
Right.
something go off, you know you
And in a case like that, interrogate the customer, because sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, it stumbled cold, and then it's fine for the rest of the day, or using that as an example, but whatever the symptoms are.
Customers never lie.
Well, that's another issue. That's another
That's
issue,
another
but sometimes if you ask them,
They lie.
if you ask them the question right, they'll actually give you the right information.
Now, I see in the magazine there, if someone, please interrupt me, I just gotta keep yakking so we don't have dead air. I'm looking at the DrewTech, in my opinion, the best J2534 tool. They just made a deal with, and I guess Ford's gonna be soon, they just made a deal here in this advertisement with, was that Land Rover and Jaguar. It now becomes the tool for them, the
The
factory
factory
tool
tool.
with the mongoose cable. And Ford is the same thing, because it's the same,
Well, you know, it's smarter for the manufacturers really, because they don't have to have dual track diagnostic systems, one for the dealer and one for the aftermarket.
right, and not
They can
only,
have the same system for everybody.
if you have the VCI, the Ford tool, excuse me, most of them are being palmed off as real devices made in China, pieces of junk. So if they have someone where they know that this piece of quality equipment, like the DrewTech stuff is coming out, or the guy can use his Bosch V-Tronics J2534, a good known brand J25 that you can use on anything, it's gonna help all these companies out. Why? You're gonna go to the dealer website and buy the few-day subscription, correct?
Sure.
When you buy that few-day subscription, it's gonna give you the access to the factory scan tool. You know, just like Toyota now. You don't need the full year anymore. Because, you know what, how many Toyotas did you use the tool on in a year? I mean, you probably weren't taking advantage of it. I think you have it, right?
I have.
And you didn't do it. Now, all you gotta do is pay the 3-day subscription, go on Toyota, and it's not even 3 days, no, this is a day, $20 or whatever. Pay the $20, you go on, now you get the whole scan tool updated, you get used to the scan tool, all the factory manuals, all the TSBs, and with their scan tool, when you're plugged into the car, okay, and you're on the internet at the same time, it will tell you this car needs a reflash.
Really?
I did it in Okinawa, Japan with the Marines. I used that tool, it came right up, and I've used it here as well. Wasn't supposed to work in Japan, but it did. US Marine Corps has a US IP address. It won't work outside of the US right now. We're fighting for that in Canada, by the way. But at any rate, what's nicer than that? It comes up and it tells you,
You just,
if you say yes, you go.
that's
Oh,
it, done.
And it does
And
it.
of course, you should have done one thing before hitting that button. What should have you done besides read the directions?
Battery,
Put a power supply on the
Put a
car.
power supply, a proper
A
power
clean
supply.
power supply.
And one of these.
A maintainer. Now, I think we had Augie Ferron out here, and he was talking about clean supply, you know, besides, you know, that low AC voltage. We're talking minute amount of AC voltage, and he was right. Super important to make sure you have like a Medtronics type unit, the ATS type unit, the associated unit. There's quite a few.
I don't know who makes the one that
best.
Baum was selling, but we got one at work that was made by Baum. It's a 70 amp. I know Augie was recommending 90, but for us 70 is fine. Programmable between, I forgot, 12.6 battery voltage and
And
15.8 or something like that. Very accurate. I've put a scope on it. It's clean.
Yeah. When in doubt,
It's
put a
good.
scope on it.
Put a
See
scope
what
on
your-
it.
See what your AC.
See if it's
And
clean.
by the way, your old
AC and DC.
battery charger, and the regular ones that
Not-
you're dragging around,
Not clean enough for that.
you put a scope on there and you'll see bad AC ripple.
Yeah, we've done it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing you gotta be careful about.
They use no filtering,
No filter on
straight diode bridge.
I mean,
output.
the new associated one I have out there, and they're working with BMW to put one out, really nice. Of course, the phoniest one, that.
Fronius.
Fronius.
Phonius. Phonius would be the fake one.
Very good. That is one very good tool, and it's probably been, you know, it's the one AutoLogic recommends.
Well, that was the original from BMW. They
Yeah, they
Stepped
really
it up
put
a
that
couple
one.
of times.
The problem is.
big bucks.
Good quality.
The early generations used to burn up. They used to smoke them a lot. Now they're pretty reliable.
Yeah, and you know what, you can leave them on the car just about all the time. Some people use them like as a battery.
I do. I use mine all the time.
I mean, it's really nice, and if you have the MR1 or the MR8 Medtronics ones, those are good for about 55 or so amps. You know, the Bernie new one is good up to 90 amps, and I think it's pretty reasonable, under $1,000 for 90
But his
amps.
is not programmable. His is a
No,
set
his is
voltage.
a set voltage.
So it depends on what your needs are. For most people, a set voltage is fine. Sometimes not fine. BMW, they have different models that specify different voltages.
Yeah, they start like 14.2, 14.4, right? They have a couple of different-
Actually, 14 is the lowest that they say, but the real magic number is the computers in the car better never see less than 13.8.
Right.
And, you know, they're talking at the battery, obviously.
Right.
And then they have some that go up quite a bit higher than that.
Well, this says right here, normal, and for 13 volts.
There you go,
and one for
15.5. BMW, 15.5. Right. They have some that
So
are.
obviously BMW's in this whole.
Yeah, they have their own thing going on.
What a company, what a company.
Yeah.
So what else is on your mind, gentlemen? What other problems have you come across and,
I came across something that I was alluding to earlier before we started. It's a VW thing, I think, but it probably applies to other cars. And we see a lot of cars with heaters that aren't very hot, that go cold. Now, I'm not so much concerned about how do you put a heater core in a car as what do you really do to diagnose it? How do you really go about that? Because there's several things that could cause a heater core to be cold. One would be, you know, blockage or whatever in the tubes, but that's not blend doors. The other one could be a lack of flow problem, or a water pump, or some other crud in some of the pipes going up to it or from it.
Or
So
circulation.
what, the point is, what's your protocol? I mean, how do you go after it? I'm saying this because we had a car come in, if you don't remember, mid-2000s Passat. They put a heater core in it last year. They found a lot of bars leaks or some other crud in it. They thought they flushed it enough. I said thought they had flushed it enough. And the car, that was in like December of last year. Car came back in January with the heater not cold. The first tech wasn't even there anymore. Another guy looked at it. He found that much bars leaks and other crud in the reservoir.
Is there some kind
Flush-
of filtering system you can put in?
That's part of the question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But the bottom line is, he thought he flushed it enough. I mean, he tried. It's clean. It looks clean now. But guess what? The vehicle's back with no heat. So they were all ready to throw a heater core at it, and I said, "Do you know you have flow?" And I rigged up an auxiliary water pump, huh?
air pocket?
And we bled the air out, and there was no air in it.
Okay.
So, yes, we've been there too, yeah, I forgot about air pockets. So, the bottom line was, I rigged up something, I never got it finished today, where I have an auxiliary water pump from a different model with some hoses, and it couldn't pull, it didn't have any deadhead capability to pull from water up an empty tube. So I have to actually rig something where I put it in a bucket with coolant and have a hose going into it and some thing I gotta figure out for tomorrow. But the point
I'll tell
is,
you how to do it, because I did one.
because otherwise, how do I know that that core is good? Those cores have a bypass in them. They can be plugged, but you can still have good flow. So the test from my viewpoint is putting an electric pump in line, pumping coolant on a hot running engine through it, and does it make the car hot? Not what the flow is alone. Does it flow and make the car hot? Because after all, that's all the customer wants to know. Right? So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, how do you test something like that? What do you?
Well, as we all know, things are sometimes a little tough.
Complicated.
How do you get at the core?
The core is a dashboard
That's-
off deal on that
That's
car.
what I mean.
That's why I want to test it first.
Yeah, of course.
I can only reach the pipes
Yeah.
under the cowl.
How about a little scoping?
Scoping to see the outside of the core? Oh, inside? What are you going to see inside?
Yeah, you're not gonna see anything.
So you need a thermal imaging gun is what you need.
I have a thermal imaging gun, but the core itself is
You can't see it.
You can't get to the core.
unaccessible.
Right.
I bought the flare from him, from Rich. And I used it, the cheaper one, but it works great. I was
Yeah.
looking at this, and the one side was hot and the other side was not.
Right,
So this didn't look to me like it had flow,
right.
because if it was bypassing, the cold side would have been hot.
About the same thing.
Yeah.
And the norm, unless it was real cold out and you had it on high blower, the norm would be that both hoses would be very similar.
Right,
in
but the cold side's a little
a
colder.
little,
Right.
right, the
But I had,
output. The
I
output
had
was
something
a
on
little
a 190 degree engine, I had something like 179 or 180 something on the hot side,
Mhm.
and 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the cold side.
Mhm.
Today, when it was 80. So there's nothing going on there.
Right.
And I rigged this pump up, I never got a chance to test it, but I'm just kind of a subject for discussion. How do you test something like that?
One thing that I have thought about, all right, because I don't usually do this type of testing anymore.
Yeah, right, you do
But-
electrical.
I do only electrical, but however, so many people ask me, do I have a problem with a blend door? Maybe the blend door motor's bad, maybe
Right.
something like this.
Or gasket fell apart.
Right, yeah, right. Anything like that,
this.
right,
So,
yeah.
I said to them, look, and many times I've diagnosed, and you've seen the thermal images that I've
Yeah.
taken.
Right.
I've diagnosed problems and said, yes, you need to find out if you have flow, all right, if you have circulation. And I think one of the best ways to attempt to do that is to get a piece of vinyl heater hose.
That's
Yeah.
in line.
And
All right,
look,
So you can see it.
so you can see it. And also, all right, they do have
The flow meter.
a flow.
yeah, those are expensive, I looked at those. The ones that,
It's not even a meter.
it's
not
an
a gauge.
ultrasonic device.
No, 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 no,
Those are
no.
$600.
No, this is it looks like the impeller of a pump that just sits in
Oh, I've seen
line
that.
in the hose. And you
Well,
can see it.
It's funny you mention that, because Mike Webb at work, smart guy,
Mhm.
he suggested that that motor's gonna act like a generator. If there's flow through it, even with it turned off, why don't I put a scope on it and see what it looks like on a healthy car? And then I could register the flow on all the other cars and I'd have a comparison. I'm not sure that's a
I
valid
don't think
thing.
that might.
Would that motor generate enough?
The motor generate enough?
Couldn't a motor act as a generator if it's a regular DC motor?
Yes, absolutely,
But the question is, would there be enough flow to turn the impeller?
that's just it. But if you had this impeller, they use them on the antifreeze flush and fill machines.
Right.
Yes.
Right, on the,
On the-
That's what I've seen.
I know.
On the
Yep.
Remember
antifreeze
ones.
flush
On the
and
roof.
fill machines, all right?
'Cause I have
And the
one.
hose goes in and out,
Right,
all
right.
right?
can see
And
the,
you can see the flow of the,
Boy, an antifreeze flush and fill machine would be a good
that
test tool for
could
that.
be two. You might be able
We
to.
don't happen to
work
have
out.
one, that's the problem. I think the guys across the parking lot do though.
Time to go see
Yeah,
it.
you gotta
That's it.
borrow it, right?
yeah,
That's a
that's
good
good.
idea.
Make the job easy, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so, but that's, that's it, just,
And a clear hose.
but the part of the question was, how do you think your way through something like that?
Right.
That was kind of my thinking today. I said, I want flow, I want guaranteed flow from a pump I put in line. And if I can't trust the pipes to flow good, I'm gonna put a container of coolant, tap it in, so I'm always refreshing the flow,
Right.
kind of in a loop with the car, so I can see that I have flow. Because when I put this thing I took an antifreeze jug, put the cap on it, sliced the top off it, laid it sideways, filled it with water, and this water pump pumps water. An auxiliary pump for a heater.
Right.
So,
I got one thought on that. Know how the system works. I worked
yeah,
on
that's right.
I worked on an F650 with a cat motor, and it had no heat. And it was a regular Ford, like my 99 F350, that kind of cab. Nice and simple to get to the heater core. I took both hoses off the heater core, and when you crank the motor, I had pressure out of both hoses. And I couldn't figure it out, and then I realized the thing has two thermostats. And when one thermostat goes bad, it bypasses, and it was fighting itself. I didn't know how the
Now, that's
system
important, a
worked.
lot of them are.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I don't know that on this particular car.
Then I
That
do
I'm
it.
looking at.
But what I did was I put two clear hoses on it, and I got air, and I couldn't figure out why. And when the thing shot fluid out of both when I disconnected them, I was completely blown away, and then I finally called the dealer, and they said, oh, there's two thermostats in that. I went, okay, I didn't understand that. Still not sure how it works,
But
but
see, that's
not
something
knowing how a
that's
system,
important.
yeah, not
Yeah.
knowing how a system works.
Remember we
you're
said,
chasing yourself.
read last week, or whenever we did the last one, go into all data and read how the system works. If you know how the system works,
Right.
you know maybe what to
Now, of
expect.
course, the problem there is sometimes the manufacturers don't explain how the system works.
Actually,
True.
that's correct. And in most, if you look into
Oh,
all
yeah.
You have to
data,
figure it out.
if you look into all data, or Mitchell, you won't see a diagram of a flow diagram.
No, those
Right.
days are gone.
Remember when they used to have clutch diagrams for transmissions, what clutches activated for
All
what
kinds
gear?
of things,
Does
yes.
that stuff exist anymore? They don't even tell you that anymore, do they?
They tell you to flow by color.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You need Wayne Colonna who.
Yeah,
draws
Yeah,
everything
that's
out.
right, yeah, it tells you how it
He
works.
makes his own diagrams.
Yeah, he does, he draws
But
them all.
that information is very helpful when you get into one of these conundrums where some people where I work, we're ready to throw a heater core, for example, in this car. I don't think there's anything wrong with this core.
We got about a half hour left.
I'll be honest.
Now, the bypass system you're talking about with this heater.
This particular core was already replaced, so it doesn't have the bypass. But the original one did.
Oh, so there was, so the
There was a
upgrade
bypass. What happens with the bypass is, if the core gets plugged up, it basically bypasses the core entirely, goes in the inlet, out the outlet, but it never goes through the
So
core.
it's- Yeah, so.
Never
there-
goes through the radiator.
Right.
And the flow is greatly reduced. It's a restrictor, you know, it's
Oh, it's
a
got-
pipe like that, but the bypass is, you know,
Okay, I understand.
6 or
That's
7
just to
millimeters.
stop the sediment in the hoses from.
I think that's actually to maintain the flow in the rest of the engine. I think they have
That
a
too,
dynamic.
but it
of-
also, if there's no flow at all, sediment in the hose and everything else, but of
Yeah,
course,
right.
it maintains circulation.
Right, yeah.
You know, let's talk about, what do you do for, you know, we're talking flow. What do you do to test fuel pumps or fuel systems?
Well, easy if you have John Thompson's flow meter, but other than
Or
You're not the only one made, by the
Or
way.
what was that one that around Accu?
Oh, vacuum tech.
Vacuum.
No longer made, no longer available.
That was a very good thing.
But there is another one out.
Is it Coda? Coda's.
Coda's an expensive one though.
Coda's not around
Oh, it's not around.
anymore, yeah.
I got lucky. I bought an SUR&R one that makes the brake line kits and the trans replacement kits. I bought one and it has the flow meter on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
They make
Sure,
one?
they make one, but then something happened and they couldn't make it with the flow meter anymore. But I got lucky and I have one of those, and that thing looked good for me, like.
There is a
it's like
big
350,
company, yeah, there's a
I
big
remember,
company
yeah.
that makes one, I forgot the name of it. And the flow meter, but it doesn't use all metal parts, like the one that John Thompson sells
Right.
is all metal made in Germany. You know, where you have a replaceable, mine got messed up.
Right.
It never leave, you know, gasoline or whatever in there, because a lot of these additives
Right.
will
Eat it.
eat away at the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
It did something to the ball.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Call them up, bingo, get a new one, easy to replace.
Mhm.
So it's very, very important to make sure if you buy one, that it is a quality one. You know, what is the right amount of flow, because we know pressure's a bunch of
It depends on the
Right.
car.
They do have a flow.
Okay, depends on the car. Let's say an 8-cylinder car. Where's the basic amount of flow on an 8-cylinder car? This is something that's not nice to know, it's need to know. And the pint in 15-minute stuff years ago, the problem didn't happen in 15 seconds.
No, it's a gallon per minute, isn't it?
Yeah, so you gotta go by gallons per minute, and you gotta leave that on there. So you gotta be looking at 5/10 of a gallon for an 8-cylinder or a turbocharged type 4-cylinder motor, or 6. A regular 4-banger, at least 4/10 of a gallon.
There is a calculator to figure that out, isn't there?
You don't even need that. I mean, I've never ever run across a problem with 4/10 of a gallon for a 4-cylinder car, and 5/10 of a gallon for turbocharged 4-cylinders, 6-cylinders, and 8-cylinders.
So for
The
somebody,
more the best, the better.
for somebody who can't figure out 5/10 of a gallon would be a half a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Per minute.
But that's on the
How much
unit.
put is I wrote down 5 pence?
Per minute.
But it's on the unit. All those units have it in, you know,
They're calibrated. That's
in
what the flow meter.
metric and in English, so we know the standard calibration. And I gotta tell you, if you see the ball bouncing and the little bubbles in there, it's
Yeah,
cavitating,
Right.
you know you got
That's
a
bad.
Right.
pump problem.
Right.
Right.
A lot of times what I've noticed is you could have perfect pressure. In fact, you may remember when John Thompson was out doing a fuel class for us, I gave him a great case study. Happened to be the same exact year Jeep as mine. Same exact year. Same motor, 3.7, pressure right on the money. Okay, exactly on. The shop that looked at it also took a current rampant reading. Looked good. In fact, if I didn't do a flow test, the guy, by the way, who fixed this car, he changed the injectors, crank sensor, cam sensor, computer, plugs,
Oh my
coil,
Wow.
brought it here. Brought it to the training center, I charged him $300. I figured it out in about 40 minutes. If I didn't have that flow gauge,
Yeah, you're done.
when I looked at that current rampant thing, and he had a misfire too, this is why he did plugs and stuff, he used
Right.
mode 6 and all that. I looked at it, oh, it had perfect pressure. I actually had my Jeep here, pulled my Jeep right behind it, checked it out, same exact pressure. Except I had 6/10 of a gallon flow, it had 2/10.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was gonna sell the dude a new tranny too, because the tranny wasn't shifted right. had him change the fuel pump, and those are pretty easy.
Right.
You get them from side tank type deal, put a new pump in, came up to almost 7/10 a gallon.
And it changed.
No tranny problem, his boss was
Yeah, you
super
feel like
happy.
a shutter.
Except for the fact that all this work had been done for nothing.
Well,
Well,
he needed it anyway.
Yeah,
see, but that's the sad part in our business.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Absolutely.
We just, I just had
I
a
mean, I
car.
don't play that game. That's why I like to test. You need the right equipment.
Yeah.
But you know, the consumer out there, one of the things that TST is always about, helping technicians, we wish the consumer who, you know, can come in and see these things and view them on YouTube and everything,
Would understand all
really
this.
would understand, you know, there's a difference between a guy charging you 45 bucks, 50 bucks an hour and a guy charging you 110. The $110 an hour guy, not that always the higher money is better, but that shop should have the top of the line equipment
And training.
and training.
Yes, I have a shirt on my wall that says this: if you think this automotive technician is expensive, try a bad one. Actually, Wayne Corona actually wrote an
Yeah.
article about that.
Yeah,
Um,
and that is,
people look at that and they just stop talking.
yeah,
Make
That's
a
right.
statement.
it's not always about money, you know.
And some people, you know, I had a boss years ago, about a long time ago, had a kind of an old English expression. Experience teaches a dear school. Fools will learn by none other. Some people are the best customers after they've been burned someplace else, and you,
Yeah.
not necessarily being cheap, but being good, take care of them.
It comes down to
They
gaining
get
their trust.
value. Trust,
You know-
and they get value.
You know what I
Not
used to
cheap,
tell?
value.
I used to tell my customers, and it's probably 11 plus years ago now, I was getting 93 bucks an hour and 193 for a diac. What I told them for the 193 is I went through a whole list from gas analysis to checking the battery, everything. But I told them what systems were good, and here's the system that you have a problem in. Got to go further than fix it. I
Right.
diagnosed it. And if they came in asking me how much, it used to blow some customers away. Because at this point, after having people work for me the whole bit, I wanted to start getting out of the shop. I was doing a lot of other stuff. I went down to being like a Pierre shop, a one-man shop,
Yeah.
where every minute is money.
Absolutely.
And I learned a very important lesson, and Pierre, I got a hats off to him. Very hard to run a one-man shop.
Oh, yeah.
I had the phone,
for 30
my head,
years.
you know, with the pocket thing, the headset. And what I would tell people, I'd be very pleasant to them. If they asked me how much it was gonna be, I'd say, have a nice day. And they look at me like it was crazy. And reason being, when you go to a doctor, and I tell them, if you're coming in, you've been recommended, or you're coming to me to fix something, don't second guess me.
That's
Because
it.
my guarantee was, if I can't diagnose it and fix it, it's gonna cost you nothing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay? Because I had the right equipment, I had the right training,
Yeah.
okay? And that's key in our industry. Unfortunately, a lot of consumers out there don't have that.
Oh, they don't understand it all. They have no, the vast majority of the public out there has no clue what good, bad, or, you know, anything in between really
Education to the
is.
customer is very.
They have no
That's
idea.
right.
They're
They're only
clueless.
Education
concerned
to the
about
customer
cost.
is very priceless. I take pictures of every.
One of them, we have a term, now I have this job now working for somebody else and I'm a shop foreman, but we have some service writers who can't always explain things. So we have I guess it's an adjective for me. When they come out and they say, we have to Pierreify somebody. And that means I go out and talk to the customer and explain to them what the situation is, what the problem with their car is, or what the possibilities are, because they can't explain it. And after that happens, usually, you know, if they're gonna, you know, they're good customers, they're gonna pay. They're very happy to have us do whatever needs to be done, as long as they know what it is.
Again, comes down to trust. You gotta.
Trust, and doing it right.
Yes, you gotta have somebody in the facility that can gain trust of the customer,
Right.
and back it up as much as you can with, you know, showing the parts, explaining the system.
Documentation.
Digital pictures
Digital
nowadays.
pictures.
Yeah.
I take pictures
Show and
of
tell
every
is-
repair I do.
Show and tell is very good,
You know, the old days, I had to use a Polaroid to show people.
Yeah.
right?
You know, a lot of times it would be a lot of billable hours, but they'd look at the parts list and go, you know, fuses, fusible
It was a
leg,
big electrical
wire.
nightmare.
Right.
You know,
I
and you
don't do
go,
that with the picture.
where's the parts? And I take Polaroids and go, and print out the Mitchell and Old data
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
and go,
this is what I had to
Here's what I had
follow.
to check. This is why
You're not
it's
talking-
that much money.
You're
one
not
of the
talking about a portfolio, you're making a portfolio for that customer now.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
you're
making a
making-
repair order, it's
Right.
actually
And
a portfolio.
I like to
Pictures and
print, when I'm doing wiring, I like to print a copy of the whole wiring diagram and write my test results in the appropriate spaces on it, so that they can see that you did a lot of
Right.
work
That's what I always
for
do.
the money.
Right.
Clipboard, and remember I said write everything down?
Right, everybody.
It
Not only
really
that,
helps.
pictures also make you very good upsells, because they actually
Yes.
see.
And see all
what
the other stuff that's bad.
Yes.
By the way, nowadays with the digital camera, you know, I know Craig does this sometimes, you email
Yes.
the customer this
Yeah.
because they're
Right
not
away.
paying.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully with this technology down the road, hopefully it works better than this worked tonight, but we're still working. Is that the technology down the road, you can really take a little webcam and.
They can see you
we were
work on
doing
the
this-
car.
We've been doing this back in the Express Auto Part days.
Yeah, that's right. But
We
not
were
with a
taking little
webcam.
pictures.
We-
Yeah,
Well,
give-
I didn't.
You didn't do it.
We were on
later
the
on.
Soon the customer
We
wants to
did.
see everything you do while you're working on the car.
Well,
Yeah, well,
hey,
And
that's-
you know something? If they're paying you enough for it,
Yes.
that's great.
by the way, when you go into a doctor and, you know, there's no hourly charge per se,
Yep.
and here's where menu pricing comes in, I'd rather pay the guy the $400 that knows what he's doing than
Right.
some guy saying, I'm only $50 an hour, but he's charging you 12 hours to,
Right.
and it still ain't fixed right. You know why? Because the guy, number one, does not have the training, he doesn't have the equipment, and he ain't gonna fix your car.
And he may-
He's
yeah,
guessing
right.
at it.
It may make it worse.
There's all the extra parts. I mean,
Right.
you know, you look at even, how about these free scans at parts stores? What do you think about that?
Oh, I can't stand it. I'm sorry, I really have a problem with it. I watched the
It's-
customer, I went into an AutoZone, because I needed to pick something up real quick, and a lady, well, sorry, but like,
He went into a place.
sorry, oops. But it's like all the other places, they were like, well, the code said this, they sold them a part. It didn't fix it, they brought
That's
it
the
back,
problem,
they said,
because
okay,
it's
well, we
chasing
scanned
codes.
it. They gave them the same part 5 times, you know, and at one point, you look at them and say, listen, it's not defective, and it was an EGR valve or something, I knew that there was a code, like there's a clog, I told the people about it, like, oh, that's great, and the people behind the counter were so thrilled, they didn't know. And then talking to them, I actually got a couple of them to come to our classes, because they wanted to learn.
Right.
But I disagree with the free scan. I mean,
It's not the free scan that's the problem, it's the fact that it promotes basically ignorance. These are complicated systems and scanning is just a part of the process. It
Right.
is
If
not
it's not
the
done-
answer.
Right, if it's not done by a professional that knows how to read what those things sort of mean.
You know,
Right.
you
Remember,
get
they wouldn't need us if it was this machine
If
you
you
hook
get
up and
Right.
instant answer.
if you get an oxy sensor control code, it's almost universally not an oxy sensor.
That's right.
Right.
And yet, what they do is they turn around, even
And they
some
sell oxy
mechanics.
sensors.
Right, and
it's-
then-
That's it. It's, oh, oxygen sensor. It's related to an oxygen sensor, so
I'll
let's
change it.
Change it.
Not a problem.
Right.
When that doesn't fix the car,
And
we will
they
start
will
working
fix it
on
the
the
right
car.
That's
That's
How about-
ended discussion.
And in fact, we had a
They were
car
listening.
today that came in with unbelievable shifting issues and lean misfire and some lean stuff. And it was the PCV valve, very bad one. And, you know, it was freaking out the way that transmission was. I'm sure somebody would have sold him a tranny overhaul.
Was a miss, it felt like a misfire.
Oh, yeah, and you know, the car was.
Yeah,
This is why, again, it always goes back to basics and, you know,
And being professional.
we have an AMCO shop close by, and two of my students still work over there, and Kevin used to work there, works for Craig now. And I gotta say, those guys are really good. They just don't go, hey, you need a training.
Yeah,
They
right.
know a
They
lot
check
of this
it out.
stuff is drivability.
Right.
This is what Wayne Colonna, if you get
Yes.
transmission
Yeah, that's what he
digest,
keeps saying.
Right.
has been going over and going over, and he'll be our guest speaker in, don't have that card here, but in whatever month, I think.
January,
I
February?
think it's, or maybe February, March, whatever it is. I mean, you look at the
We'll look
TSD
on the website.
website.
2012 sometime.
But, you know, diagnostics for transmission, the technician, repair technician needs to know how to diagnose it, not how to rebuild the tranny.
Right.
And the transmission guy knows how to rebuild the tranny, but he needs to know how to diagnose it.
Get out to
Right.
separate the two systems.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that
One way to do that is
is
with no two sensor. value of root canal lab school.
Well, like you were saying, I'm gonna bring this up, because this is another pet peeve, but it's, the customers don't understand how technical the systems are anymore.
No, they have no clue.
Don't get it. They don't know what we're up against, they don't know how fast technology changes, and it's really hard to explain it to them.
And that's a key, explain it to them, someone like Neil, who's a good front guy,
Right.
you know, speaking to the customer, it's not a waste of time.
No, it's,
No, it's
Yeah.
important, it's critical.
It's the most
It is
valuable.
That's why we purify them.
But one thing that just came to mind is that customers have to understand that a car cannot be fixed right the first time, all the time.
right.
Because there are problems that you cannot see when the car is there.
There are
They
things
either
that
have
will
to-
be hidden, or that there are monitors that
Better
won't
have
run,
that done,
You
or there
know,
are
multiple problems.
multiple problems that
Right.
are masked by the big guy up
That's
front.
correct.
And that's gotta be introduced to them right away.
Or
Right.
what is good to do, or get into the habit of getting your customers, when there's a problem that does not happen, it happens intermittently, they have to leave you the car.
Right.
Have to-
Right.
You find a time where either they're going on vacation, or they're gone for a couple of days, where they don't need the car. People that need their car all the time, then they have to rent the car, but they have to leave you the car, and you have to drive the car like it's your own. That's the
With
only
te-
way
with test
I
equipment
found
in it.
problems on a car. What's that?
With test equipment in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just getting, no, but.
Or even just seeing the exact systems.
Just getting
Verifying,
used to,
verifying.
just getting in tune with the car, just
Right.
like they get in the
That's-
car in the morning, that's how I
That's
found a
true.
lot of problems.
And Neil, I agree with you 100%. I thought, I had a customer years back, I thought the lady was a little crazy.
Mhm.
And she said her car would stall. Every time she brought it to me, I couldn't get this car to stall at all. In fact, she even left it one day. I drove her home, started it back up. I never had a problem. I went to go pick her up at her house, you know, and I noticed her driveway was kind of weird and turning. So she calls me up a couple of days later and says, it just did it again. I said, stay right there, don't leave your house, I'm driving over. When I went to go drive over and drive her car down with her, I watched what she did. She turned the wheel, the power steering sensor was bad, wasn't lifting the idle up, was stalling the car out. If I didn't go see that, it was no code in there, everything looked normal, you
That's what I-
need to drive the car and you need to know, is it hot out, is it cold out, when it doesn't.
What are the
That's
duplicated
what I do all the
conditions?
time. I tell, when it happens, I tell them, stop, I don't want you to drive the car to me, I'm coming there, I wanna see what's happening
Right.
now.
Yeah, but on that note, you also.
There you go.
You
That's
should also-
customer service right there.
You should also test
That's why
drive
Neil
the
does
vehicle.
well, customer service is the way to go.
You should also test drive a vehicle with the customer driving, so you know they're driving.
I do that a
Yeah.
lot.
Very
Absolutely.
important.
I do that a lot.
Because the way we drive,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
not gonna find a
You're
problem.
gonna find
You
a
may not-
problem
you know
around driving.
something? Sometimes
but we
there's
need to
nothing
do
wrong with
both.
it. Sometimes
We
there's
just
nothing
check
wrong with
this,
the
we're
vehicle.
looking good.
We've had, you know, tried to head it off the past lately, but when I first started working at this job, VWs have plausibility that won't allow you to hit the brake and the gas at the same time without shutting down the throttle. And we had a number of customers complaining about massive hesitations or problems accelerating.
People are driving.
2 foot of drivers or people with bad brake light switches.
Right.
And one of the ways I found them was to go out for a ride with them and
Observe.
Observe, man, that's what I do.
Watch those big work boots too.
I watched the
Some of
feet.
these cars are
And
really
in one
pedals
case,
tight, man.
I never found it in the shop. I said to the customer, I said, this is such an intermittent problem, you can't leave it. I want you to notice at night if your brake lights come on when you're not touching the pedal. And they were. You can't see it in the daytime, but at night it lights up the glass a little bit, right?
Right.
The third brake light. And sure enough, the brake light it never set any codes for nothing. The
Yeah.
brake light, the pedal, it wasn't the problem with the switch, it was a sticky, you know, lever.
Today, that just reminds me, today I was a god. The customer called me up. and
Told you you were a god, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Every once in a while that happens.
The car won't start, and you know I'm bringing the booster pack because the way she's describing it
Right.
sounds like it, you know. But
Right.
she's saying it's not a battery. But I go over there. She's got one of those. She's got a Mazda with the cards, a credit card as a start.
Yeah.
So I put the key in, and it won't start. So I go over there, sit inside the car, put my hand on the wheel, turn the ignition switch, move the wheel a little bit, and start the car. It's like, what did you do? I was like, well, I turned it off again and redid what she did. I was like, the steering wheel is locked.
And how many times that
happens a lot.
We just have
Or
to keep telling
sometimes the
them.
transmission
Yeah.
shift, you gotta jerk
And I have
it.
another car, did yesterday on a Grand Prix, a 97 Grand Prix that would not, you couldn't get the key to come out sometimes. It was so intermittent. Every time I get the car, I would drive it for a day and more, 2 days, and it wouldn't happen to me. Then finally it started happening to me, and then I was able to, we thought it was the tumbler, something's wrong with the tumbler, but it wasn't. It was a
trans-
shifter.
Yeah.
The cable
Falls
just
on a
needed to be
hill, or sometimes you adjust
no,
it.
it just needed to be adjusted.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And again, there's nothing like really seeing a problem for yourself.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
you know, again, I think mechanics or technicians are really the most misunderstood people.
Oh, we are.
It's such a hard job to sell ourselves to the customer, because the first thing, when people come in, they see you, and if you can't sell yourself to them,
They're
when
not
anybody
buying
sell
it.
yourself, you're not selling them a product, you're selling them your expertise.
Your confidence,
Your
your
confidence.
knowledge.
Yep.
And that's why I would always tell people, don't worry, if I can't diagnose it or fix it, it's free. I mean, sometimes I had customers driving my car, I would switch cars out.
Right.
Go, I gotta get this one.
Yeah.
And I'd lose my pants on that car, but you know what it was?
You get
That
accustomed.
car wasn't to one place.
Right.
That car went to multiple places
you wanted
where
to know
they induced more problems than the
Yeah.
original problem.
And you got a customer for life.
Yeah.
But you do lose your pants on stuff like that. You know, when I did the radio show or the TV show, I used to get all these people come in, and sometimes they think you're God, and we have about 10 minutes left here. Sometimes they think you're God, and no one's God. We don't know everything.
No.
But some of the oddball problems that you come up with,
Yep.
you know, or stupid little things where someone has a new fuse they put in for, I remember a headlight not working, the fuse was no good, even though you looked at it and it looked good.
Right.
It was perfectly,
Those are the kind of things drive you
you
crazy.
took an ohm meter across it, you went,
Open
don't work,
circuit.
it's open circuit, but it looks perfect inside.
Yeah.
There's always something oddball, or how about the person who puts the wrong light bulb in,
Exactly.
No,
what I
and
was
burns
just
the
gonna
light
say.
driver out?
Or car does weird things
Right.
because they
Puts
put
them
the
in
wrong bulb
backwards.
in.
Yeah, like
LED
Mercedes.
I always ask them, did anybody put a bulb in
Oh,
this
they
car?
never touched it.
I don't ask, I just take them all.
How about transmissions? I mean, that's biggie with transmissions, with caravans. You jerk with the reverse light bulbs,
Yep.
you're gonna have a problem with the transmission.
Ford trucks had the same problem with the guys
How
putting
many
the
bulbs
LED
do they
lights in the
have?
back. And the LED
Well,
lights would throw them off.
How many bulbs could you have? You have to have the right ones.
No, I know that.
Remember the lamp modules on the BMWs?
Absolutely.
You put the wrong one in, or how about, I remember the one that Peter Orlando did. Great story. In fact, I forced him to put it into our TST newsletter. Still find it on our website. It was a Mercedes-Benz, okay, with the headlight number. I don't remember what the number was, but let's say it was a 4000 or something.
Okay.
Not a 4000, but a
Whatever.
6004 or whatever. One of the new bulbs, I'm
Right.
brain dead right now.
H7.
H7, okay.
H4, H3.
There were two different wattage of bulbs.
Right.
Yes.
They kept putting the wrong one in and it burnt the wiring harness up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now you look
And
at
they
the
used to
parts
sell them at
store,
55 or 60 or
That's
100
right.
watt.
55,
and
65.
and
right?
most of the
100.
parts stores only sold the higher wattage. And you know, there's always that warning when you look in your bathroom fixture or whatever.
Right.
Max 75 or your lamp, and you go, screw that, I'll put a big one. You're gonna burn something up.
Yeah.
And in cars, it's really bad, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, especially with computer control
Computer
modules.
control modules. Toyota. I mean, it's a cheapie. I can't tell you how many Toyota third brake lights
Yeah.
that I replaced because the guy,
921.
right,
Yeah.
the guy put in a 194 bulb or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Bingo!
Or
Fried
no,
city.
909. he put it in.
909.
Yep.
Gone.
See, I don't know that one, but you guys have that memorized. You've seen so
Oh,
many.
yeah.
Because it's a big problem.
I ran into a problem with brake lights on a Jeep, and it turned out they had a trailer hitch put on it, and the company,
Oh, boy.
instead of
What?
using the wiring kit that matched the
They
module,
just
cut
spliced
the
it in.
wires, and that was a nightmare for like 4 days.
Here's
You
a
know,
quick,
any aftermarket stuff that's put on a car should always be suspect. And I don't like, when people used to come in and go, can you put a remote start in for me? I go, no, I don't do that. You know
I
why?
just had a nightmare with
The
a remote start.
manufacturer doesn't like it, it's gonna interact with some of the system.
I always tell them, if it's still under warranty, I would not suggest it. If it's gonna be put on, have the dealer put it on so they can back it up.
Right.
They're gonna warranty.
That's
I just had one with an aftermarket remote start that was put in a year ago. But it worked until this girl lost her key.
Oh, yeah. That's-
Now I went to code a new key in.
No, the keys out.
Big nightmare. And they had used a half a roll of electrical tape doing a very, very bad install.
At least they used electric tape.
No, but it was pigtails this long wrapped around a wire, touching another wire and all this stuff.
I got a good one for Rich on a Crown Vic police car.
Underneath the dashboard.
Talking about under the dashboard with tape. I mean, big things you can't solder.
Right.
You need to crimp them.
Yeah.
Mike Webb brought some good stuff up the other night,
right.
the slag coming off it, pinches through, you can't bend it.
Right.
This had a big, nice crimp in it, right? The problem was, the idiot who went in there to tape it, and they say idiot, it wasn't a mechanic or a technician, he did some half blunt
Right.
work, and guess what? This thing was shorting out.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, the car would start sometimes and not start. Didn't burn a fuse up.
Yeah,
It would
right.
just hit sometimes.
A
and not.
little touch.
So I got some good pictures for you for that.
All right.
Good.
Well, Audis, now, I guess the manufacturer or the dealers are offering they pay for everything for a certain amount of years. I had a customer come in, put a headlight in, and they're the high intensity.
HID, yeah.
Oh, HID.
Gotta make sure you put the
Expensive,
right one on them.
$180 for the bulb, and you have to take the headlight out to install it.
Yeah.
Or you have to take a whole bunch of things out of
It
it.
depends
So,
on the install, but
the
yeah.
lady said, oh, if you could put it in, I don't know, both of them were out or one, and she comes in on a Saturday. I thought I could get it, I called my partner, they didn't have it, couldn't get it on Monday.
A lot of times
Called-
it's transformer too.
Right.
It's not a
Right.
transformer, it's a module.
It's a ballast.
Well,
It's a ballast.
It's more than that, it has some control
Well,
circuitry.
I just, for.
Then she tells me that it's, it's still, still covered on that. I said, well, well, then how
You
do I
better
put it
get
in?
them to do
You
it.
don't wanna pay me, cause she was like shocked, it's gonna be probably like 200 and some
yeah,
dollars
or even more.
install.
Oh,
No, labor, whatever. And she said, oh, I'm
Some
gonna
of the
get
lights
it
are
free.
180.
Then I had another person come in 2 days later, come in on Monday or Tuesday, that she wanted a headlight put in an Audi, an older Audi, but it's still a pain in the ass, had to take the air cleaner out
Yep.
to put the headlight in,
That's right.
because the cover, when you have
Right
to
up
swing
against
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't take it out, so I'm gonna try and squeeze it, and it's only an H7.
H7, they use a
To
lot
put
of
in there,
And you can't.
she was like, at first, cause my guy, they called up, my guy said $15, $20 to put for the headlight, I'm like,
No, you're
why did he say
talking an hour and a
$15, $20, I don't know, but that guy got there in time, I said, this is gonna be, if I can
It's gonna
squeeze
be
in
an
there,
hour.
it's gonna be $30, if I squeeze in, it's $30, I got it done for $8 in California. It was like,
Drive
well,
back.
you didn't do a
Better go back
headlight,
to
you
California.
didn't do a headlight, you might have done something in the back, oh, maybe it wasn't one in the back, $8 is still.
Well, maybe it was a flat tire.
Well,
Then I told her I had to take the air cleaner out, and I said, if I gotta take the air cleaner out, a minimum $65, which is still inexpensive.
It sure is.
But, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna put it back together. If you wanna go shop around, you can, I don't mind,
Yeah, because you don't really want to.
Well, how about this? Have you ever done a headlight on a Chevy Malibu? Late model, like the 2007, the new style ones? You can take the whole bumper cover off.
There are some
On
VWs.
a Trailblazer, you have to go underneath, and you have to get it just right, you have to contort.
There are some VWs where
Some
you can't
cars
get the
you
headlight
can't.
assembly out without taking the front bumper cover off.
Well, some of them, they didn't think of this stuff.
Why did the Chevy?
A headlight? Really?
Go
Yeah,
quick, quick, pull the thing out.
How many techs have you ever seen trying to put a headlight in a Chevy Tahoe? And they don't realize that there's those two little
Oh
things
my
you lift
God.
up. And you're watching the guys, I'm like, what are you gonna do, take out the bumper now? Like, stop! And they're like, what, and you pop the thing up and it pops out, and I go, I never saw that.
That's the
You didn't
smartest
look?
thing ever.
Yeah, some of these things, well, you know what it is? When they come out with new stuff, it's just like in some of the hybrid classes and stuff I've done, some of the little pins, the clips.
Oh.
We always think you gotta pull on stuff. Some of them you need to push the other
Push,
way,
right.
some, it's crazy.
I finally got the Volkswagen ones where you gotta stick the screwdriver in a certain way and it clips.
Yes.
I never
You
could
push
figure
it
that
too hard
out.
to break it.
Yeah,
I still hate those
Like
things.
a Toyota door panel.
We had a
You
car
push the
come
pin in
in.
the middle,
Right.
and you pop it out.
Speaking of which, we had a car come in today, secondary air codes. They want us to, we're just gonna scan it. I said, no, we gotta sell an hour of diag on this. Secondary air, so I put a back probe pin through the plug, and actually our scan tool had problems
you
with it.
inserted it correctly. You
Correctly
put it through it.
Correct, along the weather pack.
Right.
just to touch the
just
connector,
wanna
not
make
to
sure-
require making a hole. And
That's what
actually,
it is.
Mike used his VACCOM tool because it was a lot faster than
Yeah,
our
we
factory scan tool, and
Oh,
activated it, yeah, and I had voltage and we had no motor, and I pulled the plug apart, and there was no little clip holding it. And this is the punch line here,
Moisture.
full of water, and wait a minute, so I go to the parts department to get quotes, and he said, oh, there was this shop just called this morning to ask about that. I said, he's the guy who broke the clip. The car had come from another shop, they had a printout. He's the guy who broke the clip on the plug, now we have to sell the plug repair. There's the punchline there. But I do hate those.
Yeah.
Well,
He's the guy who makes the rest of the diagnosis.
so this,
Exactly.
Right.
to sum this up for people watching, as you need to tell your customers, or if you're a car owner, you know, again, we're TST, if you're not familiar with this, we're a non-for-profit group, where our goal is to help technicians. We're instructors, shop owners, and working technicians here, just trying to make everyone's life easier.
Right.
And one of the big things I think we always come into to kind of wrap tonight's event up here is basically the consumer really doesn't understand what we need to know.
Right.
When there's a lot of new technology
They're
that comes
clueless.
out, sometimes as smart as you are, and this goes for all of us, we're always updating, reading.
You can't know
I get
everything.
automotive engineer, you can't know everything,
Yeah.
and sometimes the manufacturer doesn't tell you had to do this,
That's
and,
right.
Yep.
and that. You learn the hard way.
And by the way, one of the advantages of a group like this is there's networking involved. You meet people
Exactly.
and you get to contact them. You know, everybody has an expertise someplace and doesn't know anything about something else.
And one other thing I want to bring up, I own a Chevy Volt, a brand new 2011 Chevy Volt. The vehicle went back for another little light bulb that went out, but of course this light bulb is a whole module type deal. Well, anyway, while I was in there, the technician decided to reprogram the vehicle. All of a sudden, reprogramming this vehicle, the car does not work in electric mode, only works on gas mode.
It's a Chevy lawnmower.
And it tells me, don't worry about it. Okay, and I'm like, don't worry about it. I said, there's something wrong, and lucky I knew a couple of people. But before I was able to do that, I gotta say, the dealership, very, very good dealership, got on it right away, gave us another loaner car, whatever, and had a call. There was nothing they did wrong. They had a call.
There was a
This
problem.
brand new update that just came out that day, they made a mistake.
Oops.
And it was something,
And that happens
and this
to
happened.
everybody.
So, you know, when you said, I just want people, the consumer, if you're watching this, or even if you're a shop owner, to tell your customer, it's not only, you know, the dealer guy can fix everything. Here's an example where sometimes they can't.
Right.
Okay? Aftermarket guys, if they have the right equipment, the right information, we have access, thanks to NASTF, all of the information that the manufacturer can get, we can purchase. We don't want it for free, as long as it's
Yeah, yeah, it's
available.
for sale.
Right.
And if you go into a good shop, the good shop should have factory tools as well as good aftermarket tools.
Yeah,
Okay?
and good information.
I just want to say
And
one
training.
thing before we close. Like you said, Neil's a great front man. I've kept a lot of customers just by being honest with them and saying, listen, I got to this point diagnosing your car, I can't go farther, but I have someone I can call, or
Yes.
another shop.
Yes.
And they actually will respect that,
Yeah.
because you're not giving up on it, you're still gonna fix it, but you're admitting that you don't know everything, and we don't.
And you know, on that,
Drive.
on that kind of train of thought, I had a shop a block away from me for years, another, at a BMW shop, he was a BMW shop, and we would consult and had a kind of a tool sharing policy. And you would, you know, there's some people in the industry think that that makes them look stupid or not very good in some way, but all of my customers and his customers who saw us consulting had greater respect for us.
Yes.
Because you're being a professional, you're consulting with another professional, rather than making a mistake on their car.
That's
That's
right.
it.
Doctors consult and you don't think anything
Right.
the worse of them. Attorneys consult and you don't think the worst of them.
And
Why shouldn't
I
technicians?
remember back in the 70s, when I had opened the shop up, I had a customer that told me, stop, stop. Came in, stop, stop. I had a manual open, looking something up.
When he
in the
thought you
book.
didn't know what you were
And he thought
doing.
I didn't know what I was doing. He goes, I don't want you, and I was a young guy at the
Right.
time. Okay, he said, I don't want you working on my car. You don't know what you're doing. You gotta read a book. I go, excuse me, look at all this information here. And I said, when you go to a doctor, do you want the guy that's just gonna go, oh, yeah, okay, give you a prescription, let me have your arm cut off? Or do you want the guy to check it out and understand what he's looking at? And nowadays, the information is way more
Oh, yeah.
than it was back in 1980. It was like this little story. 1980, every car that General Motors built, from a Chevy all the way up to Cadillac, Oldsmobile and everything, all of their information was only 19 inches high. That was all
In
of the
book form.
factory information in book form. By 1996, it was over 11 feet high. They could no longer produce it all on paper. And of course, now we put everything on
That's it.
electronic sources.
And we wouldn't be able to find it all if it wasn't for search engines.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank God, thank God for Google.
Yeah, Google.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And I want to thank everyone here. In fact, we didn't even
We didn't
introduce
do that.
ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm G, the president of TST.
I'm Pierre, I'm the vice president.
I'm Rich, I'm a secretary.
I'm Neil, I'm a board member.
Basil, I'm the treasurer.
I'm Eric, I'm the associate.